Good evening, Merrimack. Welcome to the November 18th, 2024 Merrimack Village District Board of Commissioners meeting. I'll call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. I ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so tonight's agenda can be found on the MVDwater.org website. There is a phone number on there that the listener can call into, and there's a webinar ID number that you can enter and get on the Zoom call here for future information. So we'll open up the agenda with discussion of the Finance and Human Resources review with Kristen Marr. Who just got her in the seat.
Okay, we are in the fourth month of the fiscal year, roughly 33% completion. And as of right now, we are running at about 48% above the budget for revenue, 26% for expenses, leaving us right now at about $1.4 million for the net ordinary income. The most significant part of our higher revenue was due to our hot summer and our tiered rates for irrigation, along with the fact that our interest rate for income are still very high. And when we get to the trust activity, you'll see some significant additions to those. In terms of expenses, everything seems to be falling in line. Purchase of water, as I had mentioned last month, I just put in the first 2 months. Everything else will be below the line, depending on how well we do, whether we put it into our budget or if we actually need to use the capital expense. Account for new entrances and meters, account 70040. We have a lot of the construction around town are now at the point of getting their meters, along with hydrants and things, so that has increased. And then the chemical disposal for account 70675.6, which was water treatment janitorial. That was for cleanup for some caustic at 7 and 8. Any specific questions on any of the expenses or revenues?
Any questions, anyone? I just had a question on what the this line item 50119.
Yep.
Which is salary pool.
That is.
Yeah, what is that?
That's the. That's the salary pool you guys came up with for this fiscal year. Instead of
okay, all right, yeah.
So we budgeted it all in one line, so you. All right, you didn't see it kind of broken out, but it will get distributed accordingly as we go out throughout the year.
Good.
Any others?
Quick one, line item 81950.9, professional fees accounting.
Yes.
Is that the audit cost?
That is the audit cost.
For some reason I'm thinking that we talked about there was something that was left delivered by the auditor.
They still have our finals to be
right
to us.
But they got paid.
They did get paid.
Lesson learned.
True, since normally I'd have it by now. So.
Yeah. So is there any open items on that invoice, or is it paid in full?
The final paperwork.
No, I mean the invoice is paid in full. There's no.
Correct.
Okay. Well, maybe the message is that the Board of well, I shouldn't be speaking for the board, but maybe want to consider telling them next time we won't get paid until we have the finals.
Correct.
Thank you.
Is that what the terms are? Do they have terms in the contract or whatever?
It's net 15, but again, I normally would have it by now.
Yeah. But they don't get progress payments during their.
They get, when they come, they get 2 payments. So the beginning and when they come to do their preliminary in September. And then
after the final.
And then I get a bill at the end of October, November, and I usually have everything by the end of October. So I actually spoke to them this morning. It's like,
when is the last time we switched auditors?
I believe it's been 6 or 7 years.
Might be time to look into a new one.
His agenda for next year.
Because I remember we had a discussion about something they didn't find a couple of months ago too, right? There was something you found and they didn't, or something.
I have a feeling they've taken on too many customers, and we are not getting the service we were before.
And usually the rule is to switch every 5 years anyway, so probably too for us to find a new one. They might find something they haven't found, like whatever new auditor we use.
I do know that at least for the last, not this year or last year, but the previous, we wanted to stay with them because of all the projects.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew what was going on and all the intricacies. So to change in the middle of that kind of seems silly. But now we're in a place where we can.
Okay.
It's probably a staff decision, but I would recommend thinking about switching
We've
it up.
already discussed it.
Okay. Complacency is always a problem. Thank you.
Anything else? I guess you can move on then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the fund balance, as of the end of October, our unassigned net balance is about $22 million, with 16% of that, or 3.7 million, is actually convertible cash. We are winding down. This is our last year for O&M payment from St. Gobain's for 4 and 5. So, and 2 and 9, we are wrapping up hopefully the end of this in December. And then, so those 2 columns will be falling off relatively shortly. Any questions on the fund balances?
Looks like we're good.
All right. Trust activity. I just wanted to kind of bring your attention. If you look kind of the line down, the interest and fees we got for October are $5,600 for land acquisition, $14,000 for equipment and facilities. So our interest rate, wherever they do have our money, is doing very, very well.
Thank you to the Board of Trustees.
Yes. In terms of the activity, the dump truck for $121,320. I actually just submitted for that repayment this afternoon because we finally got the truck.
Well, it took a year, but
with keys.
Keeping the miles low.
yeah.
In terms of other items for equipment and facilities, the new finance, Amy is still on target to watch a few more videos from them, and we're hoping to make a decision very soon. We have a lot of to be determines for equipment and facilities. And in terms of system development, both of those are on hold as of now, as far as I've been told by you. And then in terms of water purchase, the 3rd year of the Penachuk contract, again, whether or not we need to actually use that out of, or if we do well enough to bring it into the budget like we did last year. And then the 2 additional GIC replacements for 2 and 9 and 7 and 8. Any questions on trust activity? And the others are No more reports that I do, profit and loss comparisons. Any questions on any of those?
Questions? Looks like we have no questions. Right. Right. That's all you have for us, or do you have anything?
I have a few others.
Yeah.
The second one is what I just handed you.
Oh, moving into the
I
next session.
Yeah, so
I gave the wrong one to Shelley to make copies.
all right, so we'll go into the regular session. Board of Commissioners, a review of the draft conflict of interest policy, second reading. It's required for recipients of federal American Rescue Plan Act funds. All right, so we did the first reading in last month, I think.
What is the difference between what you just handed us a minute ago and the one that's in the package?
The first one was not the one that was in your packet last month with all the changes from Carrie and Ron and Jill. I grabbed the original.
So this one,
Carrie.
the one in the package is outdated.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're looking for questions or comments, or if you want to have anything to point out to talk about. What's the pleasure of the board? Any questions or any so you need us to officially vote to approve this at some point, I would assume, right?
Correct. You need to at least have 2 readings. You can vote on it tonight, or you can push for a 3rd reading.
Right. There's quite a bit in here. I didn't see anything that completely stands out of concern.
Most of it is attachments to the policy itself. Just
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there more to go with this? So like the outdated one shows 104, this shows
After the first
118.
4 pages, all of this is what was in the last packet. Again, it's just
the
their addendums to.
So you might want to change the page.
It says 1 of 18 is what I handed you, which includes the rest of it.
Oh, it does.
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to include the rest of the stuff in the policy?
The rest was in your packet?
Correct.
You want early?
So yes, it's part of the whole policy.
Because this is not, who is the author of this document?
Myself.
You wrote this too?
No. These are addendums from
So-
RSAs from the state.
Correct. So when you publish a policy, it's okay to reference it, but I wouldn't put it in the policy. So your policy shows 18 pages. I would keep it at 5 with the addendums listed. Because if this changes, you're going to have to change it too.
Okay.
That's what I'd recommend.
That was for page 504. Very original.
I'm looking right. So
Yes,
this chapter 12 is the state's documents, right?
yes.
Yes.
That is the start of.
And so there's,
So you change it instead of appendices references, and you can go online to review those. So if they do make changes, they would be.
yeah, and like I said, I mean, you have to make it available to all employees, right? So if you're handing them hard copies, it's fine to hand them this as well. But just, I wouldn't recommend you make it part of the policy itself.
Sounds good.
Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would change the last page, instead of attaching and making references, so you can refer back to.
Is that still 5 pages
Yes.
of the policy? Yes. Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that I read the referenced RSA 673/14 disqualification of a member. For some reason, I was thinking that there was a lengthy discussion about that a couple of years ago in town about the ability of boards to dismiss board members, elected board members. And there was a big discussion about the fact that a person elected by the voter onto a board or any elected position that is, can only be unseated by the electorate. Not by fellow board members. And I know it says the RSA here, but for some reason so Carrie had a look at that, Liga had a look at this?
I know there's been town boards that people have been removed from in the recent last year.
Appointed position, but not elected.
No, there was an elected position that someone was
Elected?
removed from, yes.
I'm really surprised by that. I know appointed positions can be unseated by the board, by fellow board members. By fellow board members.
I thought
but
elected, the same as you. That
elected positions, even if it did happen, I wouldn't use it as a reference without validating that. So I just want to make sure that the policy isn't attackable because it contains something that is, not applicable.
And again, I just went off of this. I referenced these mostly because a lot of officials and conflicts. The second one talks a lot about jury duty or being on a jury. So, but there's a small little paragraph that pertains to us. And then the office ethics. This is what's on the state site right now.
I would like to see that paragraph reviewed, whether or not that's applicable to an elected position.
I missed what's the
on page 4, item 2 or bullet point 2 references RSA 673:14 disqualification of a member. And I read that as if this board could remove one of the members of this board by majority vote. And I am fairly certain that I've heard multiple discussions that this is not possible on an elected board. On an appointed board it is, but not on an elected board. Only the voters can unseat, basically at the next election, can unseat a elected official.
So it says such a vote shall be advisory and non-binding and may not be requested by persons other than the board members, except as provided by.
Well, and maybe that's all it takes. Okay, if that's.
Is that what it's referring to? I'm guessing.
It might be. So this is basically like a ceremonial vote, then basically almost.
A loss of confidence type thing or whatever vote. But
so such vote would only undermine the credibility of said member, but it wouldn't remove that member from the board. I could see that.
I'm assuming that's what that sentence said.
The other one, legal issue. So I'm sure there was the same type thing.
I don't know. I don't need any action out of it, but I seem to disagree with that. So now if legal looked over it and they're fine with it, who am I to complain? But I just remember that discussion vividly more than once.
Any other questions on it?
No, that sentence where it says such a vote shall be advisory and non-binding. There's like a colon in between the two hyphens on my copy anyways.
Yep.
It is, yeah.
I don't know, is that just a typo or is that supposed to indicate something I'm not familiar with? I'm not sure.
So, I mean, this doesn't look like you're removing a board member. It's disqualifying them from a conversation, right? Or from a,
Application of paragraph 1 to a board member in particular circumstances. Well, maybe that's what,
In reference to something
I guess.
that might be a conflict of interest, right?
yeah. But I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess if the conflict of interest is you being on the board, then what does that mean, right?
Well, I mean, if say, for instance, like, I guess, like, say Don's company.
Okay.
yeah,
But I think you're right.
Chemical clean testing or whatever.
But I think you're right. This is for a specific subject, for a specific discussion, not for the.
It might be. I don't know if it's scoped that way. So
Yeah, that could
has to get an overview from legal.
this is, I think this is all under duty to disclose and recuse.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That would make more sense.
Yeah.
Then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In this
If
case,
you scope to that, then it's, yeah.
I remember like you was like, it's like literally nothing you can do to unsee.
not even the ethics committee, from what I know.
Really?
Good. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
In that case, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Right, so where it says approval over here, I'm gonna fill in those blanks on the day that we approve.
Right. You guys were with the changes and verifications, we can do a third reading.
Yeah, probably. So that way we got all the page numbers and everything in its final. Sounds reasonable. All right. So move on to the next item then. Anything? The next one was the hydraulic model, but anybody else from Underwood? Want them? Are they coming on? We can go to another agenda item instead, maybe.
Next few things are.
Yeah, the next two are. You said you had a few other things. Was that
Just in
all
terms
related
of
to that?
informational for my child.
Okay.
I'll do number 4.
Yeah. So we'll move on to item number 4 then, which is reviewing of the minutes of October 21st, regular Board of Commissioners meeting. Anybody have any corrections on those minutes?
I have no minutes.
There are no minutes in here.
Behind the action,
Actually, they were in the digital package twice. They're not printed. There's-
they're behind action items.
Yeah, they're after the action. I think.
Oh, actually, before in my case.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I went through them. I didn't have any corrections or anything. So.
Yeah. Do we need to vote on the second reading of that policy?
I think we're going to bring it back for the third reading next month.
Right. I was just checking because we voted for the first reading
We did.
to accept it. According to the notes, we did. To accept.
Can we take a motion to accept the second reading?
Just to accept that it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it needs to happen.
Well, if we did the first one, let's be consistent. I guess it's a good point, right?
Yeah.
Or vote to have a third reading.
If someone wants to move to accept the second reading, and
Do we need that?
I don't know, it's in the
No.
first.
No, we have readings, but we only move to accept the policy in
That's-
once.
That's fine.
I think, Don, it was the one that had us vote last time. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, if we could just make a motion to amend by removing the appendix and including reference to state law in the policy document itself. and accept the second reading as amended.
We're not accepting it though.
We have never done that.
Yeah.
But we could accept the second reading and let them come forward for a third reading as amended.
I'll vote for that. Make a motion to say with changes for third reading next month.
So this says, this is what we did last month. Motion by member X to amend by removing the appendix and including the reference to the state law in the policy document itself and accept the second reading as amended.
So she's just calling out the changes and saying you're voting those changes through.
Is that?
We're not accepting the final, we're just accepting the modifications in the second reading as amended.
We have never done motions for readings.
I know, that was quick.
I mean, we don't do motions for budget readings either. Where's that coming from?
It was a suggestion from Don at the last meeting. We didn't.
I mean, we can do that now, but maybe we should clarify if that's a necessity going forward, right?
I mean, I guess it doesn't.
Because it's a policy and you're putting it through a series of readings, I would accept each of the readings, even if the only thing you want to do tonight is accept the second reading. And then when it comes back before you for a third reading, it can be as amended, and then you can adopt it.
So moved.
Second.
Sounds good. All right. All those in favor signify, oh, sorry, motion by Wolf, second by Erin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, no oppositions or abstentions. Thanks. Thanks for getting the text over to us.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 21st as presented.
Seconded.
All right, motion by Erin, second by Ken for approval of the October 21st, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting minutes. Any other questions, corrections? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposition, abstentions?
Abstentions.
That's 4-0-1 with Wolf abstaining. All right, I see Keith is on the Zoom call here. How you doing, Keith?
Hi, guys. Good to see you.
So,
Keith, do you need screen sharing?
It depends what you guys want. I do have the drawer or the worksheets that you shared with me, Jill, if needed up. But
yeah, that might help. So this is the distribution hydraulic model information and kind of how it relates to like chlorination, water quality, basically.
yeah, and it might help me
on the agenda. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say it might help me if somebody could sort of recap what the current questions or target of the discussion would be, so I can help maybe frame it a little bit or respond to it.
Let me.
You want to go on that one?
Hi, Keith.
Hi.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been too long.
There's less concerns now that I'm hearing about chlorine concentration in the water, but they're not gone. As recently as maybe 3 weeks ago, somebody complained about it. I always encourage people to reach out to MVD so we get this on record. My understanding is that that's not usually happening, right? Which doesn't help. With the understanding,
go on Facebook and complain and not call MVD about it.
It's just like voting for this or that person, right? It's always easier on Facebook than at the booth. But anyway, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that people are still expressing that concern, right? To a certain extent, certainly less than when we switched wells back and forth after the construction projects came online. That was the biggest time and the biggest wave of complaints. I think that's clear. It's a lot less than that, but it seems that still those folks that are close to the wells or close to the tanks may have issues with chlorine smell and taste. I can't say anything about them myself because I have very little of that at home, but I'm also on the far end of town, right? So occasionally maybe, but never bad. But you know what? That nonsense is that statement is nonsense because I have a GAC filter, so I shouldn't even
Shouldn't have any chlorine.
Shouldn't even have any opinion on that. So I don't know if we know the chlorination concentration that the first customers after our tanks and wells should see, and if that's bad or not bad. I don't know if we know that, right? That's where it starts. Do we, and we talked about that, I think 2 meetings ago, maybe we should go out and do some taste testing at the first couple of clients, connections after the wells and after the tanks, right? For starters. That would be a simple way to validate that or invalidate that, and do it occasionally. Do it on a hot day. Do it on a day when we did some flushing. Do it on a day when we changed something as far as the production volume between the wells and maybe the mix in the tanks change. I don't know. I know probably less than you do how we would do that, but it would be nice to not ever have that discussion again, right? and well, I mean, it is. I just had that discussion the other day about, a couple of years ago, MVD water was supposed to be one of the best water in the state, right? It was actually prized to be the best water in the state.
Best tasting.
And best tasting water, right? So as far as the cleanliness of the water, I think we're definitely one of the best waters in the state, if not beyond, because nobody else is filtering to the levels that we are filtering to. And I would really, really, really hate for people to have a bad feeling about our water just because now it's chlorinated beyond what it should be, right? After all the money we spent and the quality of water that we produce, which is undoubtedly high. There might be some sediment issues here and there might be some chlorine issues, and I'm still not sure where we stand with that. Chlorine is one issue. The other one is, iron manganese in some areas of town where people complain about, black rings in the toilet bowl after a couple of days and those kinds of things, right? So I think those were the main concerns that I still have about our quality of water.
Well, I can, and that's good. Thank you. What we did in June and what you have with the June 23 data, and it looks like you have it in front of you, Wolf. I think a couple of you might have it. It's those 11 by 17s. And if I could just summarize what those were and what they were intended to do, but that was during the times when we were transitioning from the different wells. Some were online, some were offline. We were under construction and we were making up water elsewhere, and we weren't able to, Ron and staff were not able to use the chlorine systems like they were used to. So we were overdosing or higher doses at one side of town. So it was different. Everything was different during that period. And I think a lot of times in our experience, we see when things change, that's when people notice it, right? So if there's a little chlorine residual, but you're used to it, it's the change that causes usually somebody to call. What we did back then was we showed those changes, and those charts gave you an impression of how many times we were greater than 1 milligram per liter during construction and how it reduced after construction. My sense is, Wolf, I think your first comment is it seems to be subsiding a little bit. It's not gone. You still get complaints here and there. It's subsiding. Is that there's probably now some more stability in the chlorination systems because we're not under construction anymore. And taste is sort of something you get used to after a while, or you sort of settle into. My suggestion would be we have a nice benchmark here. I would suggest in another, and I know that Ron and the staff have this data, at least this data that we presented can be repeatable. That maybe you just get checked once again, and then just keep records going, along the way so that you at least have some sort of a baseline of what works in Merrimack and what sort of is our target zones. And then if you fall out of those target zones, then you'll know you'll be prepared for some complaints. But it's a little hard with chlorine residuals because they can change day to day, as you know. So we can go out and test it on a hot day, or like you mentioned, but then the next day it can be different, or it could be the same. You just don't know. And I know a little bit about it because I tried to do some distributions. That was actually one of the projects I did in school when I got my master's degree, was trying to predict chlorine residuals, and it was impossible. You couldn't do it. It's too many variables. But what we do want to know is that we're consistently sending stuff out at the treatment plant, the right residual. And as long as we're in those, in those levels, and and maybe every year or so, we just check out in the distribution compared to what it was been or what it should be. I think you might find things sort of settle in. That's what I'm thinking. And you might be seeing some of that already.
So one thing that I noticed on these is that the data stops at 2022, respectively 2023, depending on which chart you're looking at. And I think the peak of the complaints was in 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. Maybe it was. What we did there, Wolf, was we were trying to compare the chlorine residuals during the peak of construction versus post-construction. So we picked the 22-23 data as post-construction. And so, because we thought we were starting to get back into our normal operations. So the first, in this grid that you see there, the first grid on the left side, the top one is the number of times during that sampling period we exceeded chlorine residuals of 1.2 during the period 16 to 21. Then you move over to the right, after construction, how many times did we see a chlorine residual of 1.2 at that point, at that site? And what we noticed is that, especially when you got close to well 7 and 8, Tinker Continental Boulevard site, there was a lot more times that we had high residuals pre-22 than post-22. So it was just an attempt to see if we saw a time period impact and during construction. We definitely saw a little bit on the high residuals, but what we noticed more so was the low residuals. If you look up on the north side of town, when wells 4 and 5 were offline, we had residuals less than 0.2 at Bedford Road 39 times during that period during construction. But post-construction, we were now maintaining a residual because 4 and 5 was back online. So this was just an attempt to show that how the variations in the system and the wells on and off is an operator's nightmare. It's very challenging, and it's shown here by the data because things got better once the treatment plants were back online and we're in a steady state condition. So that was what we could, and we could do that again. We could go back and, after 24, or maybe some point in 25, we can look and see what the last year or two has done for us.
I do know that those complaints that I actually got an address for were in the area of Continental and Tinker and like 7 and 8 and 2 and 3 more than 4 and 5. I know that much. Now that's honestly, I wouldn't even call it empirical. That's really haphazard, that statement, because I got 20, 30 complaints over the last couple of years, and maybe 10 of those I even have an address for, right? People got back to me when I specifically asked them for the address or for the area that they live in. But it seemed to be a lot more in the areas of, southern western town than Denny Webster Highway in the north end of town.
Well,
which kind of makes sense because that's where the most wells are, where the highest concentration of fresh water is, right? I mean, when I say fresh water, that's where the water was the shortest in the line.
Yeah,
except for 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
And during construction, when 4 and 5 was off, the operators were probably pushing up the chlorine residuals to try to maintain a residual in the north that they couldn't otherwise maintain because they didn't have the chem feeds in the north anymore. And the data, what you just said, as scientific of a study it is, supports what you just said too. The highest residuals we saw were in the vicinities of well 7 and 8 during construction. But now we don't see that as much. Now that's 4 and 5's back online, that's dropped off. The other thing you have that's in these charts, and I'll just jump ahead a little bit, and we can come back to this if we want to talk more about it. But I wanted to remind you is that you did have us update the hydraulic model, and the hydraulic model historically has just been a schematized model that allowed us to predict fire flows and pressures in certain areas of town at certain times of the day. So it was a static model. It was kind of a point in time. Which was good for certain things, but there's a lot of things it couldn't do. But now we can take your model and predict water age and some other things. So we can put what we would call a conservative tracer in the system, and we actually can do a fairly good job predicting what water from what source is going where when. So we know, for example, at a point in the north end of town on a max day with this pump pumping at that and this, another pumping at a different rate, what the blend of the water is. Does most of it come from 4 or 5? How much 7 and 8 and 2 and 9, for example? So the model can do that for you now. What we gave you in there was just a couple examples of what that might look like. And so we use water age as sort of a predictor of a conservative tracer. It's not necessarily, it can be, but it's not necessarily a predictor of water quality. Water age tends to be a predictor we use it as a predictor of water quality because the older the water is, presumably the lower the quality is. So it's a way of sort of using a tool to help solve a water quality problem if you have one. We use it more when we start finding out there is a problem. What can we do with the modeling to make some changes in the distribution by shutting a valve or opening a valve or looping something to create more water movement? The model's great for helping to solve some problems. It's not always the best predictor on finding them because, we're just using water age. But you do have that ability now. That's a great tool going forward whenever we're dealing with water quality issues.
I was looking at that, and it might be worthwhile to actually share that on the screen just for, we're talking about charts.
Let's do it.
We can't see them right now, not right now. But when you look at figure 4, for example, the water age map, wells 4 and 5 off.
Yep, I'm popping that up. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
What do you see it?
So when you look on the west end of town here, I don't even know what roads those are. Yeah, just about there. Move a little bit, right there where your mouse pointer is right now. Do you see that? Go a little bit further south, just a tad. Do you see how there's these purple points surrounded by yellow points, which indicates that, to me, that there's water in the lines that's younger than the surrounding areas, but no fresh supply where that purple area is, if that makes a little bit further north.
Yeah, here.
Right there, right. There's some older water, right? Yellow, and then you go a little bit north on that line, and there's purple that's younger. And then it turns yellow again on the same line. And to me, that's not possible. How do we explain that in the model?
Well, you got a good eye. I'd have to look at the model. I mean, there could be some, I went back and read what Tom wrote, and, there could be a valve closed in the model that wouldn't be representative, for example, Wolf, or, something in the model that says the water's, not moving in the directions you would expect. A closed valve there might explain it. And I'm not saying in real life, I'm saying in the model, maybe we had a valve closed that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But it would be something like that. So, but that's a, I see what you're looking at. But that would be the only thing I could explain it. If I had right where that yellow dot was, if I had a valve closed or somewhere there, then water's coming from the other directions and from either direction in that case, and it wouldn't be looped. So I would ask my guys to look at that.
Thank you.
But that's what this is. And then the other chart I was explaining to you a little bit ago is, I think, more about the blending, the primary source. It's hard to schematize in a model, but this is the one where I can tell you Up in the orange area, the primary source is well two. Down in the, the yellow, red zones, it's primarily 7 and 8. I mean, all of this is a little bit obvious, but what I could show you in the model is if you could pick anybody's house or anybody's site or any point in the distribution system, I can tell you using the model how much of it is actually blended, what the proportions of blends are from the various sources. That's pretty neat. It's a nice thing to have.
And that was done before well 9 was even in service, that map, so could have shifted a little bit.
Yeah, I think we just had in this map, we had well 2 at 1,000. Well,
Right.
9 wasn't in the mix on that one. So it's a pretty powerful tool that's available to you now. And these charts were to help illustrate what capabilities you have there now. More than they were trying to solve a problem. We were just trying to show you what you can do, what you couldn't do before.
As a similar question to what Wolf had on the previous model, when you look at, like I'm looking at figure 7, for example, or percentages in well 2, you've got 60% percentage and 80% percentage surrounded on both sides by 100% percentages. So how is that possible? So like if you go all the way to the north end of town, for example.
It's a good question. It could be a rounding thing, but I don't know why it would bounce back and forth. I'll have to ask Tom on that one too.
Okay. I mean, it's cool to be able to see this. It just
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I'm sure
get
there's
the anomalies out, and then it's trustworthy.
Yeah. I'll ask Tom why he thinks that's happening. Especially on a dead end.
So the engineer,
it could be, and I'll just jump to a conclusion. It's a 7-day. These things usually, what is this, 360 hours, right? So we run the model 360 hours, and this is what it looks like at the end of 360 hours. So the model may be showing how things are moving at different times of the day, and then when we picked up the snapshot, it hadn't turned something over. I don't know. I know there's going to be an explanation Tom's going to give me, but I will find out because I don't know the answer. But it is a 360 hour run. So we run the model for 360 hours. The pumps cycle on, cycle off, tanks fill, tanks draw. There's a demand during the morning hours, then it subsides, then there's a demand in the evening. So we have all these diurnal curves built into the model. So it probably has something to do when we actually picked up the data. So we just took a snapshot at the end of 360 hours. It might look different at 340, and then it looked different at 320, and then it looked different at 240. You know what I mean? So, but I'll double check on that.
So the model is assuming certain like mass flow of water based on the length of pipe and diameter of pipe and pump rates and pressure differentials, or
it has all that in there in the hydraulics. But yeah, the most challenging part is putting in the pump curves, the tank cycling. We can actually predict now how the tanks cycle. We can look at water age in the tank, so we can watch the fill draw cycles of the tank. And then we put in, the diurnal curves during the day. So when you have a higher demand in the morning, more pumps are running. And we have to understand how the operators have the set points for the wells so that we know when they come on and come off. So it's all built into the model. It gets a little bit complex. That's why it's so much more powerful than just a simple hydraulic model. There's a lot built in there. So anything can change. If we have set points in the wells that change, if we have a pump on or we reduce its flow, all that will impact how the model output is. Of course, demands change too, and we have to estimate what the demands are, but we put in our best estimate or a typical max day demand to give you a prediction. And that's why, Wolf, this. I mean, models are, what do they say? All models are wrong. Some are useful. because you can just never get it perfect, but it's trying to be a good predictor to help you solve some problems, and that's what you have now.
I think it was what, 2 years ago, we went around different places in town with Tom and did some fire flows just for calibration of the model.
Cool.
Maybe with this one model, one day we can find out the unsatisfying discrepancy between non-revenue water and revenue water. Still a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Or I should say the overall pump rate versus revenue metered consumption.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're losing water?
This is something we went about maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. There's a discrepancy that isn't fully explained between how much water we pump and how much water we meter and bill for and account for. And we know we lose some water because of flushing that just goes down right into the streets, right into the ditch. Fires. But we have never been able, and we went through this quite a bit to fully understand where that's coming from.
Somebody's attached directly to the fire hydrant instead of around their meter.
It's a little bit too much.
Okay. Yes. What is the?
So I thought when we flush the hydrants, do we put a meter on there and add that into the?
We try to account for as much lost water as we can, and we don't put them necessarily flush with a meter, but we kind of do it like a fire flow. We gauge what we're estimating. We estimate what we're putting out.
Yeah. So I know there's a threshold if we exceed the non-accounted for water that the state will ask us to address that and all that, right?
Yeah.
So if we can account for as much water as we can that's lost and add that to the revenue water, then our unaccounted for water would go down, which would keep us out of the red list,
I mean, we've never been on the red list.
No,
right?
I don't know.
Right. So it's not unusual what we see here.
Right.
Keith, question for you.
Yeah.
Could this be, that's just dawned on me. I don't think we ever had that idea. I mean, we're comparing the metered water with the produced water. The produced water is measured by very few flow meters, right? Maybe a dozen or
Just at the pumps, basically, at the wells.
yeah, maybe a dozen or something, right? So, well, yeah, at the pumps, right? So, Frank, what is it? Six, right? Yeah.
So we meter the water as it's going out. Now all through town, we have water sitting in pipes. So that's not accounted for as metered water yet, but it is pumped water.
Yeah, but that would, once the pipes are full, that should no longer be an issue. Because at that point,
if you don't do it at the same time, there's always going to be a variation.
Yeah, but these are accumulated numbers here. They're not snapshots in time. They're accumulated numbers. But what I was thinking just now is, I mean, we have an error that we have on every meter that we use for billing, right? Which is the accounted water in the end. The metered water, we meter that by thousands of meters, every one of which has a little bit of an error. And I wonder if that's a cumulative of that error. Because you always have slippage in when I mean, these are mechanical meters in the end, right?
Well, they're within, there's
and we have thousands of them that we compare against 6.
And the 6 that we use at the pump houses are probably more accurate because they're digital, right?
Calibrated.
Mag meters and everything.
That could be an interesting discussion to have by the engineers to compare that. If it's just an accumulative error versus the 6 that we have, where we have a very precise measurement.
And I'm recalling, Wolf, you're jogging my memory, but I would say, maybe Ron, you would remember, but about 15 years ago, we did I think a water audit, and we went in and looked at all the meters and made some suggestions or tried to look at if there was anything there. There's a report that, is obviously dated now, but it is the basis for what we look at when we do a little bit more auditing. I applaud you guys for looking at this stuff, and I think the best thing you have going for you is you guys pull this out every once in a while and pay attention to it, because most communities don't. You're in that 6.5. We had an odd year, and one point that was pretty high, but generally you're in the. I'm not suggesting you stop looking at it or don't continue to proceed, because wasted water is wasted money. But you guys are in the upper tier in terms of where I see a lot of communities that are much, much higher than this.
And I think that one year that we were high was, a lot of it was how we were recording our flushing numbers. I don't think we were accounting for everything that we were flushing. We really honed in on the way we were recording our numbers.
Sorry?
Could be. There's usually some explanation or there's some math there. I know at times if something doesn't look right, we go back and talk and figure out if the data is right or something's not right. But it's the long-term trends that I think make the most sense for you to pay attention to. But the industry goal is 15%.
Yeah, no, I was wondering if there's a newer version of it.
And that could actually be a nice, since you already have that data, that could be a nice chart to have the trending, because right now all we have is the difference between the two on this chart.
Yeah,
but to see the trending of the non-revenue water, if that's going up and down over the years, that could be interesting.
Yeah, and we might have that. You're looking at this right here, Wolf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it looks better in the chart ends at 2018, right? 2017. It was really bad 2010, 2011.
Yeah, so that's
2012.
6 years of we don't have data for the last.
Yeah, that's
6
true.
years.
That's true too.
Well,
Yeah,
I think we do.
Maybe look at it and don't bring it to the commissioners meeting necessarily, maybe, I don't know. We got the records.
Yeah, we usually look at this every year for you. So,
is that it's not in the annual report, is it?
It's a water balance report that we submit to the state.
Hmm.
do you want me to share something more current, or? John said he doesn't want to see it, but I don't know what you meant. I have a production versus authorized build consumption through 2023.
Yeah, put it up there. I mean, if the pattern changes in the last 6 years, then we want to do something with it. But if it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, this is a letter that we provide, but it's this is because the state asks for the stuff. So this goes into the state, and we update it for you guys every year. And there's a this is the form the state asks us to fill out, and then here's that updated or a different way to look at that chart, I guess. Production. So see if I got to refresh myself on the units. There's the legend. Non-revenue water percentage. So, okay. So we were looking at 17 data in this vicinity. We did have some trending up, drop back down. So that was odd, now that I'm remembering. And then we've got a little bit, the production's been flat and the consumption's dropped a little bit. So we do trend this every year here for you.
2022, 2023, wouldn't that be the asinine flushing of arsenic that we had to do for the GAC media?
Iron.
It probably was.
Iron? Was it iron?
Yeah.
Iron it was.
Careful.
Yeah, sorry. Both are an issue sometimes, but yeah.
In fact, our letter said that, I think. Yeah, UE notes that the 2023 data may not reflect typical years, as GAC treatment facilities were still being put online and startup operations likely resulted in an increase in non-revenue water over prior years. So
It's still got an upward trend though, which
Yeah.
is a little concerning.
That's non-revenue water, but that's accounted for.
That's accounted for.
Oh, it is?
Yes, that's all we've got analyzer use, flushing, street sweeping, all different categories that are in one spreadsheet, and then that goes over to Megan. Megan puts these together, and so that's showing what we were using for non-revenue water that was accounted for.
All right, so that gray line is not unaccounted for water?
it's non-revenue water. So,
All right.
yeah, so it's all of it. It's stuff you know you're not getting money for, but it's also the stuff you do lose. So it's everything. So
Yeah,
that
so-
includes the flushing, that includes
Right.
fire flows, that includes sampling, that includes town street sweeping, all those things. And I know your staff does try to keep track of breaks, so those are tracked too if we know them.
Well, but if unaccounted water is not on that chart, it probably should be.
Right.
Right.
That was the percentage between those two.
Right.
It is in there, Wolf. The non-revenue water includes accounted for and unaccounted for.
Yeah,
water.
what I'm saying is I think the non-revenue water should not include the unaccounted water.
Oh, I see. Yeah, or
And
we
it
could
should
put
have a
them both
separate
up
chart or a separate
separately.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the unaccounted for water is
Missing.
could be more leaks in the system, and that's where it's concerning. If we know that we use more water for some reason that we didn't bill for, that's one thing. I wouldn't get alarmed on that because we know where the water went. But it's the water that we don't know where it goes.
We also get reports from the fire department when they're doing training.
They'll call.
Because I know with the new fire trucks, there's probably been in the last year or two more training on fire trucks and using water than probably previously.
We didn't, they've been
Yeah.
better. They've been sending us numbers. We didn't used to get those numbers in the past. So.
They just kind of estimating how long the hose was on and what flow was at and all that. Yeah. Yeah.
But even that's better than nothing, to get some
Yeah.
sort of an estimate.
Which sounds like what we do when we flush,
We-
right?
It's typical, we do similar to what we would have like for a fire flow. So we'll gauge what we're flowing this, on the side of a hydrant and for the length of time and
Yeah.
estimate our flows that way.
Keith, would it be a lot of effort for you to break that out, the non-revenue water,
No,
excluding unaccounted for water and then unaccounted water?
So the table on figure 10 seems to have that. I'm just trying to
Right.
make sure I'm reading
Yeah,
it right.
I just
So
want to ask before we.
if it
yeah,
says,
no, it's just an Excel spreadsheet, so it's pretty easy. Yeah.
so
But
for
I think you're right,
27,
it is there. It's listed in the table.
for 2017, am I reading this right? That it shows that we're missing like 280-ish thousand gallons a day.
230, 2017, I see 234. So the way that bottom of that table should work is total non-revenue water in 2017 was 13.2%, which aligns with the chart. 3% of that is stuff we knew where it went, fire flows, sampling. 10% of that is stuff we don't know where it went.
Right.
Leaks.
Or measuring,
Yeah.
discrepancies.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm not saying at all that we actually lose that water. I actually find that idea of an accumulated error of those thousands of meters we have in town versus the 6. I find that a pretty credible explanation actually, because usually you have slippage when you measure more than anything. You don't necessarily measure more; you measure less than what you actually see. So that could be an interesting project, right, to look into.
Yep.
You run a couple meters, line them up and compare it with one and see what the discrepancies between those two.
I don't know off the top of my head. I know, I want to say it's like 98% is what a 5/8 meter would needs to be considered good. You know, there's a range for what is an acceptable read.
Yep. I mean, you would think that somebody in the industry has done that test. You know, line up 100 meters, right? Wire them in parallel, right? Or plumb them in parallel.
We have a test bench.
Oh, maybe not 100 then.
Well, we don't go for 100, but
But seriously, that's all you need, right? You need like 10, 15 meters, run them for a week, right? And run the water through them and accumulate those numbers, and then run that same water through 1 meter at the very end, bring it all back together and run it through 1 meter and compare those numbers. The accumulated 10 versus the 1. Might be interesting. Because I mean, we're talking about serious water that we're not accounting for. It'd be nice to know if we were losing that money or not. All right, I'm gonna stop now.
No, it's good. I think it's great that you pay attention to it. I mean, 230,000 gallons a day it's a well.
Yeah.
All right, so update that graph or something to show the is that where we
Yeah,
are?
I can do that now, or Wolf, usually if it's okay, I don't know if you want to wait till February, I'll do whatever you want, but
That's fine.
you're going to get a new one of these in February.
All right.
That's fine. Maybe we can do an action item that we remember waiting for that.
Yeah, and then because then you'll get a new year of data too. You'll see another data point.
Yeah. And you're already on scope to do that update every year anyways, right?
I'm going to be honest with you, we do this one as a favor because we like you. So
Really?
and it doesn't take that long. And it's good for us to stay in touch with it too. Because Megan, who does this for me, she always asks me where to bill the time. And I said, well, we'll just take care of it. She's so quick at it.
Appreciate
this
that.
is one we give you.
Well, it's good because I wouldn't want to ask you to do more if it's something that you're not charging us
I'm doing
for.
this one. I mean, as long as I have a relationship with you and I got other things going on, it's fine.
All right, so we'll make an action item on that one when we get there to revisit this in February or yeah, because we usually have the meeting pretty late in the month, I think.
Okay.
Right.
It might be March because they're due at the end of February, I think. Jill, is that right?
Yeah, it'll be by March 1st.
Yeah. So it might be the March meeting when we have it ready.
Yeah. All right.
No, I actually think that we had until March because we had the quarterly billing.
Well, yeah, that's true. We always ask for an extension because you guys have that funky billing.
So you'll have all the data in January.
So it's calendar year they want?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we'll put it on for March, and if it's there, we'll talk about it. If it's not, we'll talk about it in February. If it's not there, we'll do it in March.
We'll do it right after, yeah.
Deal. All right. So does that kind of cover that item number 2?
Well, hopefully I answered your questions.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's the type of thing where we could spend money analyzing it more and more, getting down into the weeds, but I don't want to, I don't know what we would, unless the data is alarming and it's like telling us we have a problem. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a problem.
What? I think it's one of those things that's kind of like there's no smoking gun. It's the long haul. It's just the constant. Let's pay attention to it, you know?
Yeah. So I guess what we see in February and March, if it's something that's alarming, then we'll dig into it deeper. But I'm not at the point where I want to, vote to spend money on something where we don't know that it's a critical issue. So, but I appreciate bringing this up in March, February and March, just based on like the routine and, summary that you guys put together for us. That'd be great. We just wait for that and see where it goes from there.
All
right.
When we did apply for the legal location grant again, we do every year.
Legal location grant, yeah.
So
which grant?
Legal location. So we tend to every year it comes out. We apply for it. We've had it in the past, and so we're constantly out there looking. We do find them, we do fix them, so.
It's like 100 miles that they'll haul.
Yeah.
100 miles they'll leak detect for us, and then the first no problems are, we go out and fix them.
So we have like suspect areas that we can tell them we want to focus on, and
We do, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
pick the areas, and we've tried to pick an area that we haven't done in a while.
okay,
We have correlators as well. I don't think they've gone out in a little bit, but we're trying to get back on track with putting our correlators out, which is another form of lubrication.
good. All right. So other than that, you want to move on to item number 3 is the update on the O&M manuals for wells 7 and 8, 2 and 9 treatment plants. Is that probably Pete is going to cover that, or Keith?
Peter's going to cover that, and
One of you guys.
unfortunately, I do have to go. He's got this covered, but I have to be in Stratham for another board meeting at 7, so I gotta scoop. If that's okay.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Good to see you. Good night.
How you doing, Pete?
How you doing?
Good.
Long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So what's going on with the O&M manuals?
So O&M manual. So I was talking with Ron, and he wanted to add some cybersecurity portions to it, based on some of the stuff that he's working on with your IT, and that was some of the stuff of who's authorized to do what, and change what from remotely and that type of stuff. So we're going to be modifying what we have in the O&Ms. Ron, do you want to add anything to that about what your IT was talking about?
Well, we basically was to kind of set up an operational plan that if things were to go down, that we could basically jump in and work on hand. And I guess from an operator's standpoint, I think there needs to be a level of
Definition about how to do that. Yeah.
Definition who's authorized to do that, or under direction from somebody to do that. And not, I mean, it's going to be there to be able to do it, but there also needs to be a kind of a plan.
So if our SCADA system got hit,
Yeah,
and we had to run everything like off the internet manually at each pump
Yes.
station, how to go
right
about
now
doing that.
we do, even now, to make changes. It's not just any tech can go in and just make a change. It runs through, the foreman,
The hierarchy.
to say, yeah, go ahead and make that change, and or he'll let him he'll walk him through making it if
Yeah.
they're not sure how to make the change.
There's a reason though why we brought this on the agenda. The reason why we brought it on the agenda is because we didn't have them at all.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we had the kickoff meeting for the cybersecurity, information security project, which is not, in my opinion, it may now prolong the delivery of those manuals, but not the status that the manuals should have had until that kickoff, if that makes any sense, right? So Pete, I think the concern was, I know when we talked about a need to update the standard operating procedures and the emergency operating procedures. The point came up that our staff couldn't really work on those because they didn't have let's say, the normal operating manual.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is maybe we need to make sure you guys have at least a draft version of the manual as they are, minus the needed changes for the cybersecurity, information security thing.
Pete and I did talk about that as well. You did get the email from Mike Unger, Pete? There's a drop dead date on December 31st that we need to have those.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. The O&M manuals, we need to have them by then.
So I think the point was, Pete, we wanted to make sure as a board, when we caught wind that we don't have those, we wanted to make sure we get those now.
Right.
And if we need to have another iteration because we need additional changes, that's really a different discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So you guys are on the same page then that we're gonna get those, or?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can.
You were
I
talking
can-
about setting up, getting them by the December anyways, correct? December 31st or?
Yeah,
the end of-
and if you want an interim one, I can do that.
Well, I think at this point, Pete, I would concentrate on getting what we need for the construction documents to finish up
Yeah.
the project.
Yeah.
And then we can work on the supplement once that's closed out.
Okay.
Let's focus on that first and get that all closed out and get that out of the
Okay.
way.
Yep.
So this is all under existing task, approved scopes already
Yes.
with the treatment plants?
Yep.
Under that budget, those budgets. All right.
Part of, for them to release the final payment, what they require.
So the IT cybersecurity stuff would be added later is what you're saying?
We can do that. I mean, I could maybe start working on to. Yeah, once we get together, I can talk with you, Pete, and maybe we can get a sit down with you, Brian, and myself, and we can get something probably fairly quick put down, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to come to the meeting and apologize. You know, I've been buried with stuff, and this has been an item that keeps me up at night. I wake up and I'm like going, "Oh my God, I got to get this done." So I wanted to come face you and apologize. You know that I haven't gotten it done. So
I know the feeling. All right. So good. I guess you guys will take care of that. We don't need to do action items on any of this at all, or what do you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the email just came in today from Mike Unger, and he basically just said December 31st is the final. That's when it has to be in by. So
okay.
Who's he again?
Yes.
Right.
Sets up the loans and all of that. So
he's going to be writing them on behalf of us anyway.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if there's anything more for you tonight.
yeah, there is. One other thing is I know Ron asked me about. I think you probably have it as an action item somewhere about the Mitchell Woods, and looking at doing that conversion from single phase to three phase compared to running a three phase line in. And I've been talking, to my electrical guy and stuff, and I've tried to call him I tried to call him on a Friday and today to try to get a finalize on that so I can give you a better update today. But I do not have that, but we are looking into that and I'll try to get something for your next meeting.
That's good.
That's section number 68.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if there was a horsepower limit. I know you can convert single phase, invert it to three phase with a VFD.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there's a horsepower limit to that. So
yeah, and I think I'll double check on that. But at least my belief is I think when you get, there is a limit, but also I think as you get up there, I think the efficiency drops off or something. But I'll get a better feel on that. So that's mainly, you want to know what the horsepower limit is? I thought you wanted to try to.
No, we just want to know if it's more feasible if we can use single phase to power whatever pump size that we had. I assume you guys had a design in there for a certain pump size and whatnot.
Right. Yeah.
And when you brought it to us last time, we were running three phase power, which was very expensive. And then we asked.
That was a big ticket item. That was a big line item on that.
Yeah, because single phase power is already there in Mitchell Street.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So we wouldn't have to run it miles, three-phase run miles. We could just grab the single phase that's in the street, assuming we can invert it and power the pump that we had specified for Mitchell Street pump station. So that's what we just wanted to know.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'll get that information.
All right.
All right.
So you want to jump in when you want to add the drinking water, groundwater trust?
New business?
You want to do it in new business? Okay. So I don't know if you were there, Pete, but we got approved on those 2 loans.
Oh, no, I wasn't there today. Yeah. Oh, you did get, that's great.
Yeah, so that's good. All right. So I guess that's it. If you don't have anything else on the agenda, then we can let you go if you have to go.
Yep.
So
sounds good. Have a good night, guys.
For coming in. Have a good one.
Good night.
All right. So we'll move on now to action items. So we'll just go through the list like we normally do for the ones that are listed for November.
Quite a bit. Stacking up.
Yeah, they are. Number 23 was the results of the PFAS sample points in the distribution system. And that was in the packet. And it does look like we had some PFBA in some of the samples, which I think was just a result of the timing of the change out of the carbon vessels.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody has any more questions on that, but so if that's quarterly, I guess the next quarter would be December, January, February. February, right? So number 23, if Don, if you want to change that last column, number 23 to February, or revisit that in 3 months.
Can I make a suggestion there?
Yeah.
Should we just ask staff to put that quarterly on the agenda and strike this?
I mean, it goes in the packet quarterly when they get the results anyway.
Just because the MVD action items oftentimes take a lot of time of the meeting, and the less we have on there. I mean,
well, I wouldn't. Agenda item that implies either a decision to be made or a vote.
No, we have a lot of agenda items that are informational purposes only.
Okay.
Right?
Well, would we even need it in the agenda because they just put it in the packet?
Yeah, that's the other option. Yeah, I'm just trying to cut down a little bit on some of the tracking that we do here.
Well, I mean,
if it's in the package.
So this is going to say February, so we're not even going to talk about it for the next 2 months.
But we do usually go over it every meeting. It was just an idea, so it's fine either way.
I think it's fine here.
Mm-hmm.
Number 43, the SALT committee meeting. I know we had one. Or no, is this the DES one we're talking about?
One with everybody.
Yeah, it says next meeting targeted for October.
Did that.
So we had that one.
Yep.
I don't think we talked about if we wanted to meet again, when we're going to meet again, that group.
We haven't yet.
Can I ask Jamie when he thinks we should schedule the next one?
I think we're going to, well, we sent the SALT letter out to all to DOT and all that.
Oh.
Anyways, the SALT, not the SALT letter, the
school board and
thank you.
The support letter.
The support letter
from the town and the school.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Sorry. So there's going to be probably a work session or something set with New Hampshire DOT and us anyways to go over that to try to get some additional reductions. So
all right.
That'll probably be the next one. I guess I'm jumping on thinking that was the meeting you were talking about, but no, another SALT committee meeting. So.
All right, so on number 43, you could probably just delete where it says next meeting targeted for October. If we don't have a date yet, just get rid of that so it doesn't say that it's in October anymore. And then as far as going back to this, we'll just change the last column from November to December. Maybe we can have at least a idea when we want to meet again at the next meeting. We can just let us know where the status of that is. So number 58, quarterly graphs. I think those were in the packet as well. It does look like the sodium and chloride are actually on the rise again at 7 and 8 too. Well, 7 and 8, a little bit what I saw.
Yeah, I originally said that I was thinking it was November. I was saying we were going to do a change out. It's actually December, so we flip flop 4 and 7 and 8, 4 and 5. 4 and 5 would do in December was the time frame it was going to be doing.
Yeah, I think these are the mineral graphs we're talking about. So
I'm all over the place.
but yeah, I just wanted to mention because I know all our efforts are focused with the state on a different watershed for wells 2 and 9, but we still have concerns at wells 7 and 8. So anyways, on number 58, let's bump that out. That's quarterly. That would be to February as well. Number 59, measures to track and correlate customer water supply, water quality complaints. We just kind of talked about that tonight, I think. Do we want to leave that on here and revisit that, or?
Well, it's really on hold due to software implementation, so we can actually just scratch.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's the.
I would just scratch the month and make it dependent on. Do we have a? No, we don't have a.
Yes. 85.
Yeah, make it dependent on depending on progress of 85, and just let it sit here until we.
All right. So what do you want to do with the last column? Because if we leave it blank and we're
wait for item 85. Switch it from November to wait for item 85.
All right.
Makes sense.
Sure. Number 67, the DOT, no salt signs, exit 10. Still up in the air on that one, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
they just got the letters.
No.
Well,
Right.
Yes, you're on the right one now.
Right. All right. Well, this thing's been bumped out for a year plus now already anyways, but
Almost 2.
yeah.
It was created in 2022.
Oh yeah, it was. So there's the dates right there. Well, what do you think? A couple months out, maybe?
Go another month because we should know something.
I haven't had any responses to it yet, but they went to 4 of the DOT people. The ones that are, the 4 that are in our stock reduction committee.
So what went to them? The letter?
The letter
Yeah.
of support from the town and the letter from the school board.
Yeah. All right, put that one in December. We can always, if there's updates, we'll hear them. If not, we'll bump it out too.
It sounded like in the meeting they were when John Parker was talking that he was open for a work session or to sit down and talk about some additional reductions.
I
showed him the 2 signs, the pictures I took of the 2 signs.
meant nothing.
I zoomed right in on them, so the whole
those aren't
screen
DOT signs.
said
They mean nothing, and I was like,
no road salt area. And I said, why are we talking about concerns about switching from a salt route to a low salt route when your trucks are driving by dumping hundreds of thousands of tons of salt by signs that say no road salt area? And he said, those aren't our signs. Those are illegal.
they mean nothing.
We covered that.
So apparently the DOT signs that are out on Continental and Industrial Drive that say no road salt, that they drive by and dump thousands of tons of
So
salt.
my question is, why are we fighting
Not
to put
there.
more signs up if no one's going to read them anyway? What does it matter?
I was pointing out the fact that it's kind of hypocritical that we're talking about this where it's already posted as a no salt route, not limited salt. Industrial Drive is limited salt, low road, whatever it says. Continental says no road salt area.
From our first,
where did those signs come from?
From our first meeting, wasn't it John that said that they put them out there during a
trial period
or something, and it didn't go over well, and they kind of
if it didn't go over well because they ignored them, then yeah, it didn't go over well.
Yeah, I don't know, I can't remember if it was a ton of accidents or something to that effect, or,
Oh, yeah.
and it just kind of needed.
I mean, it's kind of, like, every time I drive by those signs, I just kind of like get a little irritated.
Just a little.
It's a little.
When he said that, I thought your eyes were
than
literally going to
Katrina.
bug out of your head. Like I thought you were going to come through the screen at the DOT. I was like, it's going to be fun.
I mean, we've only been asking for 2 years what's going on with these signs, but anyway.
You would think if it was somebody put a sign in the DOT property, they would take it down because they're like, that shouldn't be there. So I don't know.
I'm just curious where those signs came from. I emailed Paul McCallie, he never got back to me. I don't know that he would know.
I want to say they put them up. They're their
DOT,
signs.
yeah.
And I think he had, and almost want to say it was John, but I can't swear to it, but I think.
Oh, he outright completely dismissed it. Those are not our signs. They're illegally. Someone put them up illegally. This is not a designated.
Yeah, but that can be fixed by replacing them with officially DOT sanctioned signs. Let's rip them out and get new ones in from DOT.
They won't put them up.
They won't, yeah, they won't.
Well,
put 'em up,
He's saying there's nothing on the books that say that these roads are anything else but maximum salt. There's nothing on the books that say this is low salt.
I would wonder if there's anything on the books in the state of New Hampshire about any roads being
Probably not.
lower salt. Like it's
true.
probably not even a classification they know how to make.
It's probably all the towns can do it, but does the DOT do it? Like, what's the process? I don't know. I don't know if he knows. I didn't like that answer, and I didn't push it because I already made my point at that meeting. But
well, this might be a better discussion for a one-on-one than having, contractors and everybody and their brother on a call.
yeah,
He probably doesn't want to make concessions like that with so many people in the room. So maybe we should have a smaller meeting specifically about that aspect. Because we've been kicking this down the road for 2 years. Maybe we need to have a one-on-one.
That was the plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it sounds
okay.
like with the work session that he threw, what, 150 pounds a mile, lane mile or something to that effect?
yeah.
They could possibly get down to.
Yeah.
And they're at, what, 250 now, and now they're gonna shoot for a win, but
I don't remember the 150, but
I get that from somewhere.
the reason I brought it up because he said that they can't change anything until they get the letter from the town that everybody signed and the school board's own letter. And then I said, wait a minute, you already designated this road as a no salt road. Oh no, and I showed him the sign and he's like, that's not us. So I don't know. If it's not them, then
They didn't seem too concerned about the school board letter because they said they're gonna cancel school anyways when it's the crew.
yeah, right.
It's not wrong.
So it's still, I don't know where the signs came from, but there's been 100,000 pounds of salt added all over the signs where the roads are. So whoever put them up there should have took them down if they were going to drive by them for decades. All right. So where was I now? This is number 67. I think we're meant to move that to December. Is that what we said?
Yeah.
On the last column. 68, artificial recharge grants, Mitchell Woods.
Pretty much on hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we bump this out. I don't know when.
April?
I know. It's just,
You figure the budget. April?
that's fine by me.
That was good.
All right. So number 68, we'll do April. 79, here's some good news. Updates on the water line extension status.
Anything we don't want to deal with.
Go ahead, Ron. I'll give you the thunder.
We had a meeting today up with the drinking water trust funds, so we got approved for the gap funding from them, and it's going to be going off to governor and council.
So that's the additional 800,000, is it?
325 and 525 with
Yes.
50.
850.
850.
But then there's still a gap left, right?
That's
No,
the
That's
funded.
the cover.
It's a total gap?
Yeah, because we had 2.5 million grants
Boy.
for 3 million, but they didn't cover
Right, we need that.
everything, and that's where the gap was.
How did we manage that?
I guess Brandon Kernan really had a big discussion.
Yeah. And the other thing that helped was Jill had a breakdown of the rates over the last 3 years of what,
that we already took a hit on the rates.
exactly, pass it out to that meeting.
Yeah, we did.
And our
Along with
increase in
debt
expenses and
Yeah.
our, what we've done so far.
Awesome.
And what was Brandon's point, that it was related to?
It was the household affordability index. They want you over 1, but by showing that we've already spent all this money and our rates have gone up, we were at 0.51.
Brandon's point was basically, it wasn't caused from us. It wasn't anything to do with the maintenance. It was kind of something that just
Health and safety.
Yeah,
happened. It was, that we're trying to rectify something and we really shouldn't be
penalized. It's not anything we
penalized
did
for
or
it.
didn't
On the
do.
backs of the ratepayers for this. It was.
So it showed all the skin in the game that we've had over
Yeah.
the years, and that we're just looking for some gap funding to finish these up.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and I know on Farmer and Mason, I think we talked about it a few months ago. It's like when you look at the proposed MCL from EPA, it was like 95% of the wells out there were going to be in violation of that MCL. So it made sense to focus on that area because there is a lot of contaminated wells there that can't tie into our water line now when we run it out there. So,
And that's a grant or a loan?
Grant, it's all grant.
And which fund is it coming from?
Drinking water, groundwater trust.
It is.
Yeah.
Wonder who we kicked off the list for that.
Actually, the ones before us, it's
There was 3 more that got approved today.
so we're probably going to get a letter together they want us to encourage some testing so that we'll actually know.
This supports the funding.
It supports the funding. It's
testing
a lot
of what?
For PFAS because a lot of people, a lot of them out
Private wells or
on the private wells that there's really no data on. So
In those 2 areas, there's smattering here and there. You can see that if
Oh,
we
some
didn't go
gaps.
all the way to here, that we'd be missing out on the higher. So that's the other thing they were looking at too, is like you can't just start in the middle and go and have this amount of funding. You need the whole thing in order to get there. But Amy Russo's, she's just a great resource.
Yeah.
So we're going to be putting together a letter for those areas to encourage. She's going to send me the link that goes right to the to where you can sign up to have your private well tested.
Oh yeah.
And they're not just doing PFAS; they're doing VOCs. They're doing all kinds of other stuff too. So it's not as scary for people because you're getting a whole list of things that you can take a look at now that they may never have.
And the typical private well does never test for
Right.
anything but mineral chemistry, and
It's also good to encourage those homeowners now, because then when they get their results back, they're like, I want in on that extension, I want to hook in.
Yeah.
And we're getting them involved in the rebate program too, so we're facilitating that part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
and one of the other questions was asked is, what's next kind of, do we have a plan for hooking anybody else up in
Other projects.
as far as, other areas that were out there. So maybe I'm going to probably work at putting something together that for the other areas that.
yeah, because we had like 5 and these cover what, 3, I think.
3 of them.
Yeah.
So put something together for those and kind of just to have
Yeah.
somebody say this could be something down the road.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Okay, so where were we again there? That was
79.
Are we?
oh, yeah. Yeah, so can we retire that now? I mean, I know we're still in the design, it's going to construction and
So we're
next
about
year, right?
90%, I think,
96%, John. They do.
Design.
design. He's going to come to our next meeting. Zoom in on next meeting, an update as well.
Was that Underwood?
Terry, yeah.
Terry, okay.
We need those motions too.
Yeah, you want to do them now? So to accept,
Now,
Yeah.
I don't know.
it's not on the agenda, so
Right.
you can stick it in anywhere, I guess, but
Kind of goes with the action items.
it does. So there are 2 grants, right? 2 projects. So the funding is, so I'll read it, and then if someone wants to say, so moved, make the motion. So this one is motion to accept the Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund grant. And this is for Farmer Foster Mason. I move that the Board of Commissioners of Merrimack Village District accept a Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund grant in the amount of $525,000 to cover the completion of the Farmer Foster Mason Road Main Line Extension Project. The board is also giving authority to Superintendent Ronald Minor to execute all grant documents on behalf of the Merrimack Village District. The grant is contingent upon acceptance by the governor and council.
So moved.
All right, motion by Ken. Second, who seconded?
I did.
Second by Aaron. Any questions, discussions?
That's the executive council, right? It doesn't
Yes.
say that, right?
Yes.
Yes. Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Done.
That's 500, no opposition, no abstentions. The other grant is read as follows. I move that the Board of Commissioners of Merrimack Village District accept a Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund grant in the amount of $325,000 to cover the completion of the Palmieri, Gerard, Wilson Hill, Mulligan Main Line Extension Project. The board is also giving authority to Superintendent Ronald J. Minor Jr. to accept all grant documents on behalf of the Merrimack Village District to execute all grant documents. The grant is contingent upon acceptance by the governor and council.
Moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Aaron, second by Ken. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's 500 as well. So look good. That's $850,000 of new connections to new wells.
Can we definitely list that under new business, so it doesn't get lost in the action items, because they want to see the vote?
Yeah, I'll remember that when we get to new business. All right, so those are the things I signed right there. Don't let me take them. All right, so let's try to power through this. The next one in November is the salt reduction letter to be sent out in October. Was that done or not?
We're still working with Emery and Garrett. It's part of their watershed. So they're doing a letter with a Natticook Brook that we're going to use for all of them. Is that what we went?
All of the wellhead protection areas?
Yes.
So that's still in the works.
All right.
Should be going out shortly, or coming to us shortly for review.
All right, so let's bring that back for December, see if we have any updates on that one. Number 87. Number 88, monthly alternative vendor. That's the pilot testing. We're still not pilot testing, I'm guessing.
88. So we got a meeting with Dexorb the 21st at 3, and then we're meeting with them
Tomorrow.
Thank you. I was gonna say Wednesday. I knew it was
Blue Leaf is tomorrow, Dexorb on Thursday.
All right. Getting their final columns and media and all that set up. Okay. So that's monthly. So we'll bring that back next month.
On that note, did we do anything yet with Merrimack TV about our test columns and explaining what they are and why this is something that is pretty spectacular that nobody else is doing?
I think
we haven't yet. No,
we did last meeting. Kind of went over it. Didn't we? There'll be some discussion.
we did.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I think last meeting, because Scott had some questions regarding how we're doing, how the testing would be done last meeting. I mean, are you asking like a formal presentation kind of thing?
No, we had said when we did a walkthrough with some of the political candidates a couple of months ago, we had said that it might be a great idea. Actually, Ron brought up the idea to just do a little bit of a special with Merrimack MTV, Merrimack TV, that shows what these toss, how they look and what their purpose is, and how MVD is kind of really leading the charge here with this whole, investigating different alternatives for PFAS mitigation.
Oh, okay, so like
More for
like a little documentary.
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
process.
Yeah,
a little video
right.
piece on.
And why this is something that I think, we collectively, the staff and the board are really pretty creative and tooting our own horn a little bit because nobody else is doing it right now, right? I mean, we are basically doing a market analysis of the available media that's out there, testing it with real world rapid scale testing columns, right? And then presenting the results to the public for people to benefit from it. And us obviously too, and get a little bit more leverage towards the vendors and being able to leverage them against each other.
I will talk to Nick, but once we finally get.
Yeah, I think
the
once the
tests
tests are going.
once the media is in,
Yeah.
and we start.
Mhm.
It'd be a good time to.
I think it'd be this is a cool thing to have, down the road. So we say like the schools or whatever, they can play it, whatnot.
Yep.
Stuff. So
Yeah, just to kind of show the public what's going on. I mean, they do stuff that the town does all the time. It's kind of what's going on behind the scenes. It's kind of similar to, hey, we got this going on, testing the media, trying to refine which media works better, last longer, type of thing. Something nice,
great idea.
Short little piece. Okay, so that one is number 88. That's monthly. That can just stay there. Number 90, solar power. I don't know if we had any time to do anything on that.
Still waiting for quote from Ewing. I did reach out to them. They said that he was waiting on his vendor, so they're
Okay.
on process.
Is that the same company we had that phone call with? No, right?
I don't think so.
No, that was the one that actually had the panels.
That died off really quick once they realized that it's really not super interesting for us, right? With the
we don't have income.
We don't have that tax credit.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is our own electrician.
Okay.
Oh yeah. You want to?
Well, not our own electrician, but somebody.
Yeah.
Local.
You want to bump that out to when?
April.
Fine with me. We have budget season coming up, so honestly, fine with me.
And it's going to take this is going to be a long process. You can put on there whatever you want, and then as soon as we get an update.
I mean, this was started in 2023. Should we just kill it?
I don't know. Are we convinced that solar power is not gonna?
I mean, we could always just
to us.
Leave it, and then when Jill gets the information, she could put it on an agenda.
Yeah. Let's put it out for, I don't know. Want to do April, I guess? That's fine.
Yeah, it's absolutely on your meeting. And if anything comes up, she can always report back. Yeah.
Okay. 92, salt reduction use alternatives on the website. I don't think we have any more products that we know of that. So kick that one out to April too, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that one might really be something to kill because I think the issue is that there is not all that much. Everybody knows you can throw sand out there, right?
Sand, that's about all.
Nobody's going to brine their home, their walkway from the garage to their house. That's just not going to happen.
Pickle juice, coffee grounds,
beet juice.
Kitty litter is what the fire department uses when they come to a house.
Do they?
Yep.
Really?
So tracks right in your house.
Works really.
Stains.
Do we have anything right now in that regard on the website since? Or no, right? It's completely vacant in that
It's
regard.
unnerving to if they get this pet friendly when you put it out there, and then it turns out that it's not pet friendly, or it's got too much of this or too much of that. I mean, recommending something and saying it's environmentally friendly, you really got to have some backing.
I guess we can kill it if you guys want. I don't know that we're going to ever get answers.
We
Yeah,
can
I'd say kill
find
it.
Something, we'll happily put it on the website, but.
Pickle
Yeah.
juice.
100%.
All right, if you guys are good with that, then Dawn, you can just hide number 92. And we'll have to not worry about that one. Number 94, what does this say? This is
October.
It says October there, but
Well, that was done. And you guys sent a letter to.
Sent a letter, no
yeah.
response. So we're resent last week.
So we sent the letter on October 24th. We put it on return receipt, delivery confirmation, put it in the mailbox on Friday, never heard anything. We didn't get the green thing back. So we resent it, brought it to the post office. And that was just on the 12th.
Okay.
So we gave it some time to come back, but we didn't have any confirmation they got it or that it was sent or anything. So we resent the whole thing.
All right. Let's bump that to December, see if anything comes of it. So number 94 will go to December. Update on water line extensions. This is the St. Gobain extensions.
They're still working on them. Christopher Wildcat water mains, they've all been completed. Brenda Lane has been completed. They've done their most, I think, of all of the service lines to the homes have been completed on those roads. And they're working on now the internal plumbing and that end of it.
Good.
And they're still actively working so that was Cardillo, and then the SUR is doing the random ones out there, in the hookups, and they're still actively out hooking people up as well.
Okay. All right. Number 96, cybersecurity information. Staff discuss with which contractors they have engaged with.
I would propose changing the wording here and saying just get quarterly update or close this one out and create a new one, doesn't matter. Get quarterly update about ongoing cybersecurity activities and switch it to maybe January now.
All right, so let's do a new one and we'll close this one out. So let's just close out number 96 and whatever the next item number is.
99.
Is it 99? It don't fit on one page.
I think
Right now they are.
did the non-revenue water update for 99. For his
Yeah, all right.
graphs.
And we don't know if we had a 99 that was hidden, so whatever is the next one.
Yeah, the next number would be the was it unaccounted for water update? And we said for March. So then the next one after that would be the one you just said, which is cybersecurity update.
Yeah,
just in general like that.
Quarterly update about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be a little bit more specific about what you want to hear, because there are certain things you don't want in board meetings or in probably public session. So,
well, I was on a new business. I would have brought that up, right? So,
so we can put it there, and then
we can put it there, but we definitely want to be selective with what we share. Right?
Yeah. So leave it general in the heading here. Just kind of
update.
Yeah.
Be cognizant of what.
So passwords are stored on.
All right, so that one's gonna be quarterly with the first discussion to be in when? January?
Start in January.
Yeah, start in January.
I'm hoping we'll have
a
report from that group by then.
All right, and that painfully concludes the action items. So next on the agenda is old business. What do you got? Old business. It's just one. I wanted to get a little clarification since it is old business. I guess I'll bring it up. Is the Where's the sheet in here that has the change out dates of the media? I'm having a hard time following what's going on. It's MVD PFAS monitoring summary. And so it says under the lead vessels, the date of first detection in effluent for the three different treatment plants. You got one there, October 22nd, 24, July 24, 2024, and then July 24, 2024. And then it says date of 8 month of lead operation. And go ahead.
Do you have 2 minutes for new business?
Sure.
Because that would do with, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So what's going on with that? I'm confused. Is that date of first detection of effluent? And then up top, you got the date put into lead position. Okay, so what is our policy? 8 months from the time the vessel went into lead position, right? Is that where we want to target the change out?
Yes.
Okay. So does 6/22/2024, should it be 6/22?
That should be 25, right?
It should be 8 months after 10/8/24, right? Is that how we're doing it? So 8 months after 10/8/24 is, what is that? November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So it should be June 8th, 2025, where it says date of 8 month of lead operation.
Yep.
All right. And well 7 and 8, that was put into lead position on February 13th of 24.
Mhm.
So 8 months later would be October 13th, 2024, right? So that's correct.
It's November.
I'm sorry, it does say, oh yeah, but there's an asterisk. It says there's an extra month in there because there was something was offline for a month.
So that
7 and 8.
it was off. Yeah. She adjusted the dates. So what we originally did, or what my plan was, so we didn't do one, wasn't, well, it was technically getting stretched out, but we flopped 4 and 5 and 7 and 8. So 4 and 5 was going to be due in December. 7 and 8 was off for a while. I just flopped the 2. We did the change out early for 4 and 5, and I was going off the December change out date for
2 and 9
or 4 and 5. So I just flopped them. So that's where I'm going with 7 and 8 being in December, not November too. So we're still going at the same time. Each filter was going to go at the same time, or it's just a different filter. Same dates there was a filter being changed in those time frames, just different filters. I guess is where I'm going with it.
All right, so is this date correct then?
No.
Because that was 5 days ago.
Yes. No, I have handwritten on a different piece that I was going off of, and I did notice. I just haven't talked to Lynette yet on this one. She did adjust the dates. She adjusted the time frame on this, and I didn't let her know that I just flipped them. I should.
Okay.
It's December rather than November.
So, all right. So is Wells 2 and 9? Is that correct? Because that was. So was that just changed? Or that said the date put into lead position was September 24th. That just got changed. So 8 months after that, it's October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 24. Okay, so that looks good. May 24, 2025. All right, so I was looking, I definitely knew there was one date that was wrong. It was just the wrong year there, whatever, the wrong. And then,
Well, that bears the question, how do you guys synchronize with each other? Since this is maintained by Lynette, not by you, but you're taking action.
yeah,
How does that synchronization process work?
It should be an email or a phone call.
I'm not judging. I'm
Yeah,
asking.
no, I assumed that was done. I probably didn't express it, but
Well, the question is, does it make sense for them to do that for us if we're the people doing the work all the time, right? This might be one of those things where it doesn't make sense to outsource because it's really under your control anyway. And it's easier just to keep it up to date ourselves, because otherwise all it requires, obviously if that communication isn't happening, then it's hard for them to keep it up to date, right? And then it's rather confusing at that point.
well, there's a lot of other data in here that they populate, which is they look at the results and they tell you when the PFBA broke through and all this other stuff.
That's true.
But it's just a matter of that one number about when is the 8-month cutoff from when that vessel was put into lead position. I think we just gotta make sure we're on track with that with Lynette.
yeah, and I just hadn't had a chance to.
Well, I mean,
noticed it.
Yeah,
I just haven't had a chance to.
I haven't seen it because last month it wasn't in the packet. So then this month I was looking at it and there were a couple numbers I wasn't following. So I just, make sure. I guess if the two of you communicate with, let her know what you're doing with the swapping things, and she has this table match that. I think
It's really the first time that we've done any kind of swapping, and when I was thinking of it, my thought was just taking the two and just going like this and doing 7 and 8 in December, but I couldn't remember off the last meeting. I thought it was November that was going to be due. I'm not looking at the papers, so.
But isn't Underwood in copy of some of the records that are being exchanged when this change out is happening anyway?
No, just
Right.
dates. I don't think he's sending. Is he sending?
Is anybody from Underwood coming and they're not present at the change outs? It's just the staff, right?
Just staff.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, but I guess when we get, for example, the certificate of destruction, for example, from the company that regenerates the media, and the replenishment notice, I'm sure we get some kind of packing slip or something that tells us how many.
It goes to Chris and it goes on file.
So Underwood doesn't get any copies of that?
I wasn't told to Florida can.
I can find out. I don't know.
Well, that would be a nice, easy way to keep them informed and also to make them aware that this is happening,
Absolutely.
make them part of the process.
I'm still having to call to get invoices though, so I guess just rather just do it for free.
All right. I just so going forward, this makes more sense. And the other thing is the 8 months was more of like a budget consideration. So I don't know that if wells are offline for a month, should we bump out the 8th month to make it 9 months? Because we have breakthrough in that period into the drinking water, which is really what we're trying to avoid. So if the 8 month is based on the budget and we're having breakthrough and we're bumping it out to 9 months and we're having breakthrough, kind of defeating the purpose, you know what I mean?
I don't think we're having breakthrough at the time at 7 and 8, but we were at 4 and 5 sooner than, if I remember correctly.
All right.
I think that was the reason for flopping them.
Maybe in the lag vessel is
Yeah.
Well, it does say here PF 75%. Oh yeah, you're right. It doesn't say in the finished water. So okay.
In the lag or in the lead?
Well, that's in the lag down here, 75% in the 75% port. So it didn't get into the finished water, although it did. It's in the distribution system. The last 2 times we sampled.
We are now, yeah. It is. When I made the original flop, 4 and 5 were breaking through into the lag. 7 and 8 at that point weren't. we made this.
Which is why you went to 4 and 5, because it was more critical.
Exactly.
All right.
But see, this has always been my issue, though. If we allow the short chains to break through the lead and start saturating the lag vessel, and the lag vessel is now already at 75%, at the 75% breaking through, that means that the lag media is spent by the time that we do the change out of the
It's
lead
going to
vessel.
break through.
So we have to
soon
break.
after.
So we have to replace both of them. Period. Right. That's always been my issue with that policy that we decided, and we had that discussion at the time. The 8 months for me as a minimum time frame never made sense, because we always had said once we can project that it's going to break through, we plan the breakout. The change out, because we want to avoid finished water to have any kind of PFAS. Right. That's what
that comes at a price.
Live up to. Yeah, I know that. And
price is possibly rate impacts too. And I mean, I don't know, that was the compromise, but we can revisit that.
The real problem is that we don't know really what to gauge the short chains by, because there's not really any good advisory out there for those.
No.
There's a higher tolerance supposedly, but we have nothing to go by.
Right.
That's the issue, right?
It is. Yeah, there's only health advisories, which I think for PFBA, I don't even know if there is one. For PFBS, it's high. It's like 2,000 or something like that. But
and I think the hard part is the time frame on how long it takes short chains to get through a tank isn't a definite thing, because it depends on what tank is, what well we're pumping, what well we weren't pumping, so the time frame, you could probably figure out like a MGD to get through one of those.
Yeah, because the problem is,
but it's not going to be a set time.
When you use more water in the summer, you're going to break through faster. You're going to have breakthrough in the finished water. And then probably over the winter, when you change a vessel like in the fall, and then you have just very low use for the whole winter, you probably won't break through. And did really well in the distribution system. We went through a long time with all non-detect. Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing the result of what I just said through the summer, that the 8-month period was not short enough to change out the media.
When we budget for them, because it's an 8-month, do we budget for 2 change outs a year per well, no matter what? Even if some years, technically, you might only need 1 change out.
Right.
So then
I think we look back at when the last time it was changed, and we project ahead when we have to change it.
Since we're still learning,
right?
I would rather keep the 2 in.
And I don't think the 2 is bad, but if we're already budgeting for 2 a year, then maybe we should say 6 months and pay attention and try to change slightly now. And we also have a better vendor.
Yeah.
Do a little more proactive change outs and say, since we're budgeting for twice a year, let's try to do twice a year.
I would consider looking at changing that procedure to 6 months. If you want to work that into your budget.
I mean, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you already did it.
You're
already planning on.
Well, the way we did it was 1 for 2 and 9 and 7 and 8. And then 1 coming out into the budget, and then 1 for 2 and 9, 7 and 8 coming out of capital.
Oh.
Until we started learning what do we really need.
Yeah.
Then I can start moving everything we need into the budget.
But they did also come in at a lower price point than projected.
Correct.
So
new vendor.
So maybe we can afford to shrink that time frame
without too much impact on the budget. And I mean, we can always not do it and be thankful for it, right? That we don't have to do it, right?
Right.
So, but I mean, when I see the lag vessel going up
75%,
75%, and we haven't even changed the lead vessel yet. So,
yeah,
I'm not happy about that.
No. And I mean, I think PFBA, the result I just saw today, one of them was it's like 7 or 9. Where again, I don't know if people consider that, high. It's not PFOA. None of these are regulated that we're concerned about. Those are taken out big time, 100%. So yeah, I guess when the budget season rolls around, if we want to talk about shortening that to 6 months.
Do the 6 months.
Every 6 months, yeah.
Okay.
And sustainability wise, it'd be good if this came out of the budget, all of it, and not out of reserves, because eventually we're gonna spend down the reserves and just have to replenish it anyway. So it's, all the money comes from customers one way or the other.
Correct.
All right. This went way longer than I wanted to. Sorry about that.
No, but I think this is important because this is hitting the customer. But the other thing is, and maybe as a reminder for the next meeting, we need to maybe start talking again about polishing. Right.
That's waiting on the studies.
The
pilot studies. We can talk about polishing all day long, but if we don't know what works, it's not really a big discussion to have.
Well, one thing we could do is we could see if Underwood can give us a cost projection of what an additional polishing in infrastructure would cost ballpark. And we could compare that with if we make our media exchange decisions based on the short change that we are considering polishing out. We may not have to have a big discussion, right? Because if it's going to cost us umpteen $1 million to polish them out, but it's only costing, $100,000 a year to just replace more often,
quicker,
and we're done with that discussion. So I think that discussion we can have actually. Does that make sense?
I thought they did some cost analysis on the.
Yeah, but that was like 4 years ago. That was 4 years ago, I think.
I don't know, wasn't that far? But I don't remember. I can't tell you that I remember what the number was. If it was like $4 million to expand this treatment plant, and it's only $100,000 a year more to change the media out more frequently. That's a pretty long buyback period.
Plus, you have additional operating costs for the polishing too. So
I'm kind of leaning more towards doing this more operationally.
Yeah,
and we will be factoring in 4 and 5 in the next 2-3 years into our budget, which we are not now because it's being paid by the seller. So
it would just be nice to. What I'm saying is, if we don't want to polish, it would be nice to put a button on that, right, and stop talking about it.
The thing that
I think we could do that. We probably have enough data for that decision.
I'm not sure if they're going to know how to predict the polishing life. I don't know how they're going to be able to calculate that.
But they could tell us what one change out would ballpark cost, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we could go something with operationally do our change outs off times.
Yeah, so the frequency is
do away with the lead lag, but do a GAC and then a resin polish with the existing filters and have a swing load come in. So filters down for a day where they're so quick and then back up within a couple days. So if you do your change outs in an off season, not during summer months, obviously, you might be down for, if you're down for a week, then you back up and you're doing your change outs.
You're saying using the lag vessel as the polishing vessel, not as a GAC vessel.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, but I still think.
I thought we talked about that at one point, and they said that couldn't be done because the vessel characteristics are different.
Yeah,
that came with 4 and 5. Came with the diffusers for resin.
It did.
Yeah. We actually we changed them out and put the different diffuser in for the GAC.
I mean, that would totally be worth investigating. Because right now we're wasting the lag vessel basically 90% of its lifetime the way it looks. Just because if we are to replace it because of the short change breaker through.
If we could do the change outs, I mean, now that we have the swing load, if we could do a swing load and do a complete change out at the time, that might be something to look at.
That is worth an action item.
I'm ready to close out, so.
Well, whatever you guys want to do. I mean, I don't care.
It's part of the whole polishing and media
Right.
discussion, right? But I think that would be a great thing to look into.
I think that's what that discussion item originally was the cost of polishing buildings and tanks and all that,
Right.
and then it morphed into the pilot test because I remember the thing was like we wanted to pilot test the effluent coming out of our lead lag vessels, but it was non-detect for like 6 months in a row. So what are we piloting? We're piloting non-detect influent water into the polishing pilot vessel. So that's why they said it didn't make sense to do a pilot test on the polishing water coming out of the lag carbon vessel because it was non-detect.
But piloting was intended to find any replacement for a WOCO that's suitable.
Yeah, but
based on raw water.
And I think that's also why we're doing some resin in it too, because we wanted to see how the resin reacted with the short chains.
Right.
So
we just needed to do it on the raw water, because
we don't have enough.
We didn't have enough PFAS in the finished water.
Which I think is still a valid,
Yeah. So let's see how the resin reacts on the short chains,
right?
Because we have carbon in our vessels, and we have like what 4 columns of carbon and 2 of resin or something like that. So
I believe so.
I mean, there's no saying that once we're
5 and 2 or Dextorb, I think, is resin.
Is that a resin or is it was it one like was it clay? Not a clay.
Yeah, there was something that was like a hybrid.
Names and then we get lost.
All right.
Can we move on?
Yeah. So no other old business, then you guys can talk about new business.
Do you want to make sure that
the old business,
the new bit for the new business,
the
grants made it onto the new business? Yep. In the new business section.
Yeah. So that whole approval of the 2 grants that we received, they're going to receive. Let's make sure that comes under the new business section of the minutes.
Got it.
All right. Any other new business?
Yes. So for the cybersecurity, I don't know if the board got an update. I don't think they did about our meeting with Primex and Adam.
Adam Group.
Adam Group. Right. So
I was waiting for the report to give kind of the final price.
So staff, Scott and I had a meeting with the risk assessment consultant manager, whatever, from Primex, our insurance company, and a third-party contractor, Adam, at ATOM, right? They called me today and kept saying Adam, and I was like, "Who's Adam?" It didn't dawn on me. So, anyways, we had a really good conversation, I think, about where we are and where we want to be and what they want us to be and how they can help us to get there in terms of cybersecurity, information security, and protect and business continuity management, right, for the district. And I think it's clear that this is going to be an ongoing activity. And I wanted to ask the board if, what their thoughts are to maybe have a budget line item for that going forward.
I actually added it to the budget.
You did already.
When my first work session with you guys is, what would you like to do with this?
Right.
So.
Because this is really going to be initially a bigger project, and then it's going to be an ongoing effort, right?
Correct.
And I think we should
in the beginning
define a budget for it and track it.
Grants towards this also, and I think those are going to start fading away with more of a grant with the 50% match, and those start fading away. So kind of creating a budget line item that for trainings, for anything else that relates to cybersecurity, which, as you mentioned, this is not going away. This is going to be a budget line item probably forever. So trying to think of things we can put in there that are cyber specific, where we can put the budget of a 50% match of something, a program we may know of, like things that we can put in there for now.
Should it be specific to cybersecurity or just security in general? And then include cybersecurity and
Fine with me.
Yes,
It's
information security.
yeah, and really business continuity too. It's not just protecting, but also responding to when something happens. How do we ensure that we can continue to operate? So it's really security and business continuity. So,
okay,
does it make sense to everybody?
Yeah. Never like spending more money, but this is important. So
It's a trade-off of spending the money now versus spending a lot more later.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we get possibly any benefit as far as our security insurance premium from Primex for doing this, but it definitely has an impact on the overall insurance premium because the less impacts incidents that occur that Primex has to pay for, which was actually basically the statement. The statement was made that they don't really care all that much if they have to. I shouldn't be saying out loud, but if they pay for security incidents, that's not what matters to them. What matters to them is that the premium goes up, right?
The premium, yeah.
Right.
Insurance company.
So for everybody. So
yeah, okay.
Okay, so thank you.
Any other new business?
So I did get an email from Lorraine Allen.
Oh yeah.
Doing a little copied on it as well. She was approached by a documentary filmmaker who was working on a community success in grappling with PFAS. He wants to start he wants to do a short video about the Merrimack story. And she was working with him to create a basic timeline. We'll be here January 2nd through 5th to film the footage. And Lorraine's asked is if possible to revisit an MVD or one of our wells to a site of our choosing to.
What we have done inside for the treatment of the PFAS, or
I have to follow. I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of not really specific about what the topics they were going to be wanting to do a documentary about, but.
And obviously probably would want to run it through legal as well.
Yeah.
And we should stay away from 4 and 5.
Why? I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Because we have, due to the settlement agreement, an obligation to stay neutral and not talk negatively about our settlement partner.
But how can I put it? You could show them what we did for 4 and 5 because of the PFAS. We don't have to say any particular party.
But we did the same thing at 7, 8, and 2 or 3 where the other party was not involved, so it's a little bit safer.
Well, then in the same breath, we're doing other things going on. So in that sense, wouldn't that kind of go in the same boat?
They're not regarding 4 and 5 where we have a settlement agreement. That's the difference.
Okay.
And is there policy on restricted access before you allow filming in certain areas?
Well, the funny thing is though, if we're going to be doing
we do not
the video thing for Merrimack TV, what's the difference if they got
permission? Consider that
or from us
attack vectors.
I think getting an outline from Lorraine would be good. And I know it's early. They probably just had the idea and hadn't really developed an outline, but we probably want to run that by our attorney so that she can cross out 9 out of the 10 topics.
Yeah, that was. I just want to see if there's any objections, and then obviously then run through.
There's things to think about.
Yeah, through Carrie.
So this, I don't even know if it's going to fly. To be of any worth.
Well, I guess to your point, get the outline
because that's usually how it goes.
The legal.
Well, I think the issue is, I mean, when Merrimack TV did the documentaries about us, they were not talking about the timeline of events with 4 and 5.
Right.
That's where it gets a little bit on sticky ground, right? Whatever we did on 7 and 8 and 2 and 3 is outside of the settlement agreement, and this we do have an ongoing trial, right? But we're not talking with any kind of limitations in terms of violating an existing agreement. Right. With 4 and 5, there's always that sticky ground that we could violate an existing agreement.
Which I've never seen the legal backup for that. So I question if that is even a real concern. I'm personally.
I mean,
That's in the agreement.
say if a customer came and asked for a tour. I mean, we allow politicians to come for tours or whatever.
We've
So
actually had open houses before.
yeah, so
But we're not talking about the timeline of events at the time. That's the difference, right?
well, I guess
It sounds like Doreen's proposing a documentary about what happened at the time.
Right.
Which,
but if they want to see how we do treatment going forward in that respects, then that
should be fine.
Yeah.
It just depends on the spin of the documentary and
The problem is that's not in our control usually. So.
right.
Yeah.
You want me to reply to her and just tell her to see if she can give us an outline at some point so we can see what they want to cover in that documentary that they're talking about? And once we get that, we'll run it by legal and see what they have to say about it.
I mean, I can reply to her as well.
All right, that's fine. Yeah. She sent it to was it to you and coffee for me? I can't remember, but that's fine.
You know, I don't know.
Get back
if it
to
was
it.
addressed to you, then I don't know. I think it was addressed to all of us. I don't recall it right now.
I don't remember.
It was two,
It was just
all three of us.
Why don't you reply then?
I can reply.
Yeah. All right. So we're good on new business?
I got one more.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw this email that came out about support for for support letters for this. So this is the explanation, and behind is the template letter.
Was it an EWA?
New England Waterworks Association.
Oh. We should know that.
HR 7944.
There's no issues with this. We're going to run it by Carrie anyway. It's our legal. Let's get her input.
I was just gonna say I would probably limit discussions here right now about this.
She has it now. She just hasn't.
Okay.
Just wanted to get it in front of you.
Legal review and we'll report back.
Okay. Yeah, so this is AWWA is now on here, American Waterworks Association, who are suing the EPA to try to get the MCLs dropped. And I did not renew my membership in American Waterworks Association this year because of that. After I got my 25-year certificate being a member, I am no longer a member of that organization because of that.
It's just like Plymouth.
Is it?
New England Waterworks Association is no longer affiliated with AWWA.
They separate you. I was trying to go
Disaffiliated.
New England.
We're the New England chapter of AWWA. Happened to disaffiliate, not related to that, for good reason. Anyways, any other superintendent report item?
Other than get a new dump truck, but Kristen already mentioned that. So then, no, I'm all
good.
I'm good.
All right.
Is it fully outfitted?
This is fully outfitted.
Fully outfitted.
Yes.
Fire trucks don't get that, so I was just wondering.
That was a good question.
Yes, it comes cabin chassis and it goes over to Donovan Street, gets the body put on. And, you know, they didn't want to hold it up, but it doesn't have the mirrors that were spec'd on it. They put temporary mirrors on it. They're a little tightened up. But once the mirrors come in, they're gonna swap them out. But just
So there's no special like tooling on there that you need for.
nope. It's actually, and if you recall, we 1 pound under what you need for CDL.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gross or?
Yep.
It's like, cause if you like load it, do you need a CDL?
Nope. Nope. It's 1 pound under what you need.
So when you get those new mirrors, that doesn't count.
Yeah, I get.
As long as you don't leave the ones on it and then double them up, then it
And
would
the
count.
stereo.
Yeah.
No Christmas tree hangers or anything.
No.
Keep it down.
Do we have anybody from the press or public in
Actually,
the? Go
I
ahead.
apologize. I should have brought that. It's just on me. Maybe for one of the next meetings. After the last meeting with only one commissioner and me present, we had a discussion about the radio system and potentially needing to review whether or not we want to be on the same system as as police and fire, because there was an incident with their contractor doing changes to our system and so on. That should be, I don't know if that should be maybe an action item so we don't forget about that, but that seems like a pretty hot topic to me.
And I did talk to Paul about that as well.
Do you want to prepare that for the next meeting as an agenda item so we don't blow this meeting out of the water?
Yeah.
But please do that. That seemed to be a pretty hot topic for me. So it would be good to get an update for the whole board.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Does it say no attendees on there?
Yep.
Great, so I guess we're good with that. So that's the next meeting is December 16th. We have a budget meeting on December 4th, if I'm not mistaken. It's on everybody's calendar, hopefully I can make it. And with that, I guess we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ken, second by Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, 500. Good evening, Merrimack. See you next month.